What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ELI 5 podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about yield and where does it come from. We just released a mobile app. It's called AmpPay. It's available on Apple, Android, and actually the Solana dApp store very, very soon, if not out already by the time you see this. Either way, it allows you to earn higher yield than pretty much every savings account in the US. Right now, AmpPay, you can get a little over 8% interest on your USDC, or effectively on your cash, right? In most bank accounts, they're paying less than 1% interest. I think there's some online only accounts that might be paying in the ballpark of 2 to 4% if you're lucky. So you're getting more than double the top interest rate that's probably available to you in the US. How does this work, right? How is this not some sort of scheme? Well,
where does the yield come from?
What it's doing is, think about the banks, right? How do they make money? Well, they lend out the money that you give to them. They're just not paying it to you. So instead of you giving your money to them and they make all that money, you can lend out your own funds and earn all of that interest, right? So banks, they might lend out your money to people for mortgages or borrowing money to buy a car or whatever it is. And that house or that car is the collateral and the bank is on the title or deed or whatever it is, right? And so the bank is able to earn the interest over the life of that loan. So you can do the same thing with your own capital by using something like AmpPay. And we have simply integrated with DeFi Carrot. And DeFi Carrot aggregates all of these lending and borrowing protocols. What is a lending and borrowing protocol? Well, simply put, it is code or programs that are on the Solana blockchain in this case that match up people that want to borrow or lend their money. So you don't have to go out and find somebody to do this. You can just deposit your funds into this pool. You can lend out your money and somebody else can come along to that pool and say, hey, I need to borrow money to do something else. The main use case of this is trading. People want to take leverage when they trade and therefore they need to borrow that money from somewhere. And when they borrow that money, they're going to pay interest for it. So let's do a simple example, right? I want to buy a car that I see on Facebook Marketplace. I see that the car is listed for $200. But I only have $100. So now what I would normally do is go to my friend, right? So in this case, or on chain, I would go to this lending and borrowing protocol. My friend would give me the other $100 that I need to go buy this $200 car. But my friend says, hey, while I give you this money, you're going to pay me 10% interest on this. Now it's just going to continuously accrue. But if I were to hold his $100 for an entire year, I would owe him $10, right? 10% interest on $100. Let's just keep the math simple. I owe him $10. Now, I could hold that $100 for an entire year, or what I could do is I could take that money, I could go buy the car for $200, I could fix up a few things and then relist it for, let's just say, $500. Now, when I go to sell the car and it does sell for $500, I now have $500. I repay my friend $100. I repay my initial $100 and then obviously some interest, but I've made almost $300. Now, if it only takes me 30 days or so to do this, that's only about 10% of the year, which means 10% of the 10% interest that I owe him is about $1, right? So I would repay him the $100 plus that 1% interest that's accrued over that 30-day period, the 1 month it took me to sell the car. And that's how leverage or interest works, right? So I took out leverage to buy this car by borrowing the $100. My friend, by lending that money to me, I paid him interest on that over that 30-day period. And then say somebody else wanted to borrow that $100 from him the next month. They could go to him, borrow the $100. So he gets to keep lending out his money and earning interest on it the same way you would do in AmpPay using DeFi Carrot under the hood, where I can lend out my money, earn interest on it because people want to trade and leverage up their money in order to buy more of those stocks or crypto assets or whatever it is in order to get a higher return. Now, the reason that the interest rate fluctuates over time, so over the last 2 months, I think we've seen as high as 12.5% interest and as low as 6.5% interest. The reason it changes is based on demand. If there's more people that want to borrow the US dollars to lever up a position and trade more, the higher the interest rate because there's more demand for it. And it's also based on available collateral. So the more US dollars that people lend into this pool, the lower the interest rate. Unless there's enough demand to meet it and start to exceed that supply, then the interest rate starts to spike to try to balance it back out. So that's why the interest rates constantly change and aren't just a flat rate. Whereas if you go to a bank, what they'll do is they'll say, hey, we'll give you 0.4% interest, because they know that they have these mortgages that are at 7% interest. So now they're able to say, okay, well, anything after we pay out your 0.4 or 0.5% interest, that's all of our profit. And so they just pay that fixed rate. They know what their profit margins are, and they're good to go. But by having it automated on chain, the interest rate can fluctuate, which is great for us as people that want to lend out our money and earn 6, 7, 8, 12.5% interest on our dollars. So yeah, that's where the yield comes from. It's pretty simple stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, share it. I post these on X and YouTube as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if there's other topics or content that you want me to try to explain or talk about. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys.